week, if you remember, we did vibration, and then some of the thoughts that I borrowed last time was from the book I mentioned, which is written by Swami Kriyananda on the life of Master Brahmansa Yogananda, which is a Yogananda Ji biography. And then there is a chapter in that book which is on the salient characteristics of Yogananda, and then he has given a list of those. And the topic today, which is where we talk about calmness, or more in terms of deeper into the calmness, there is a story that I would like to start with. Again, we all kind of think of saints as being a very calm, and they are kind of a right representation of how the calmness can be expressed in the outward sense as well. So Yogananda Ji was, of course, saying, and if you read his books and then many things that we have in the boutique also, he has talked about how one should be calm and all those kind of things. So this was a time when, the characteristics that Swami writes, he was always calm, and he was never anxious or never perturbed by anything. And then that's what he also told all his students as well. So one of his disciples, he was observing him most of the time, and then this was one time when Master was late for one of his appointments. So of course, naturally, he was running, and he had to really act, no? And they say, I caught you. You're not quite calm there. Then he says, well, one can run calmly, or one can run nervously, but not running when you're late is a little stupidity. And then, well, which makes sense, which probably obviously makes sense. And as we try to take, and I will be referring to this example quite some time throughout the rest of the talk today. And initially I came to Ananda and started looking around, and again I was like, I want to be calm, I want to really follow exactly what they said about. There is a spiritual saying, they say there is missing the point is one of the sins on the spiritual path, or one of the mistakes that we make. And I would like to start with something which I did, which I think was missing the point kind of thing. And initially when I came to Ananda, I was in the USA, Palo Alto, and I was also working. But I was going to these satsangs and I was looking at it, and one of the things that they told is you have to be always calm, you have to be always even-minded and cheerful all the time. I said, all right, that sounds like a good thing to do. It all was making sense to me, and I was also willing to put it into practice. And so my understanding was, even-minded, no matter, the life is like where the joys come and then sorrows come, it keeps moving on and on, there is duality. You don't go with that flow, you just stay centered. I said, that makes sense, don't go here, don't stay centered. And I was part of a startup then, and then we were a small group of team and very smart and talented people, so I used to motivate me as well. While going through that process, one time there was some problem happened into the domain that I was responsible for. Not that they were angry at me, but all of a sudden the spotlight came at me, no? And I was happy. I was just, we have to fix this. And then we worked really, really hard for 10, 12 hours next. And then we got this thing under consideration and control. There was a good thing that in office that they used to do, that whoever does some nice thing, they used to give him like some small award. It was called butt kicker. And they really give a horse like which is ready to gallop. And it's a very positive sign. And then so whoever does good things, they will give it. And then the next person who does something good thing, he just keeps traveling. And everyone was really smart there. Okay, so I was not jealous or anything. Well, when will I get that? Neither I was waiting for it. But on that day, I realized that, and then they started talking about, well, good job, you guys. And there was not one, there were more than one. Butt kickers possible. And then we realized, well, there's a good chance this butt kicker is coming towards us. And I started seeing inside my heart the sense of, I'm feeling better. I said, boy, but what happened to that even-mindedness? I shouldn't be feeling that. And I tried, okay, well, I should be quiet, calm. I know that this is going to come at me, but I still should be centered and calm. I tried hard and hard, but it never worked. And then eventually happened. Their team meeting was there, and then they called my name. And boy, I was very happy. I said, but on a spiritual level, I'm like a doomed failure, because I was by no means even-minded and cheerful. I just got into that. Later on, I was start to think again, I pondered around that again. This was an easier thing because it didn't matter much that I got attached to that situation. And uh, I kept on thinking whether what I was doing was right or not. There's another thing I would like to mention, missing the point, and we will see whether that was missing the point or not. I also went to a monastery before I came here to Pune, and this was a Buddhist monastery. They also teach things about mindfulness, which is again kind of a similar thing. No? You have to be really centered inside yourself. And to remind them that whether you are at center or not, they go with this mindfulness bell. And that they have, like we have this watch, they have this big clock which makes sound every 15 minutes or something. And then the practice they encourage is every time you hear that bell, you just take a moment to center yourself and then move on with whatever activity you have been doing. Very nice, beautiful practice. And I also saw that like the Buddhist monks, and then they were walking slowly, and all of a sudden when the bell rings, everything will come to a stillness for a few moments, and then they will again continue. There were some funny characters there also, no? Like these, they were like the good, nice people, but they would, I don't think they were doing this to make fun, but they were this guy, very active, very agile. He used to move, and he was a construction worker. He was called to build small temples nearby on the hills. But everybody in the community was supposed to do this practice. So he would be running around, and we used to play volleyball together. So very active, energetic person. But every time that bell rings, whatever activity he was doing, he had to stop, no? Because that was supposed to be the practice. So there was like, they would do all sorts of things. He was running to get some things from here and there, and all of a sudden the bell rings and he will freeze into whatever moment he is doing. And then for a few moments, and then he will continue. And I thought, well, that was funny. And I said, well, I appreciate what he's doing, because he's in the spirit of the community, he is trying to do that. But I thought there was something more, I think, was expected out of it. So again, I want to just revisit to that part. What do we really mean by being centered or being even-minded or coming to that point? Master, again coming back to what Master was saying, like can be calmly running or nervously running. So at times, if the life requires you to run, you need to run. Now, if you also look at the life of Master or Swamiji, now I don't know, none of us have lived with Master, but Swamiji, we have heard many stories from those who have lived with him. And both these characters, both these personalities, at times were very angry also, you know. I was like, well, he just said to us, all of us, that you need to be calm. So how can they be angry? No, so how do I reconcile this so-called dogma, conflict or conflicting views? Like Swamiji, when the things were not done, he used to scold his students big time, and not like a calm scolding like, oh, I'm very angry, but you need to. It won't work. He would make sure that the other person hears what he has to say. So then what does that really mean? So I want to give us one more visualization. When we talk about, again, we practice our techniques. We also sang this chant today, which talks about I am He. Other chant, again, we talked about is, engrossed is the bee of my mind on the blue lotus feet of the Divine Mother. And both of these is what we call is our own inner realities. The first chant also talks about that I am not mind, I am not my intellect, I am not my ego, I am not my chitta, I am not my feelings. So, for a moment, if you again just stay with me and then see that if you really, really leave all these four aspects aside, we always say that my mind is restless, my mind. We do say I am restless, but we know that when we are talking about restlessness, we're talking about the mind aspect of it. When we say that, oh, my heart is broken or something, like I'm feeling something inside my heart, what it seems like is while we are observing all these things, there's an intelligence inside us which has the capacity to notice this distance. Of course, we don't like to feel restless, we don't like to feel down. That's if I leave even that like or dislike aside, there is an intelligence inside us which always knows what is happening. If I ask you, how are you feeling? We don't take too long to just really answer this question. Oh, I'll have to meditate on that. I'll come to you tomorrow with that answer. No, we know. Somehow, it's always, even if you're angry, you know that, oh, okay, don't bother me now because what come out of me is not in my control then. Somehow we know. And it's not very complicated, And that's what they say in terms of when we say it's Divine Mother's presence inside us, or I am He, that presence. And in terms of when we talk about being centered or being from that state of stillness, it's just being aware that, okay, I am not even, you can be restless, you can be angry, but once the moment we are aware that, all of a sudden we return back to that sense of intelligence inside us, which has the capacity to observe it. And as they say, the observation or the awareness precedes any of the control. Another thing, again, we talked about the duality, as we understand the spiritual context, like joys and sorrows are going to come to us, no matter, it's a part of the requirement, so-called, to exist in this world. Now, in some ways, so what I was thinking, again, I gave my example of being happy or not. Does the spiritual context says that you can never be happy and you can never be sad? Because that's point, it's not the point of it. Another thing also Master says is like, you enjoy. Master said that you enjoy everything that is given to you by God with the joy of God. If you think a little bit around that, what he was trying to say, again, the same thing, we talk about ourselves and then those joys which are coming up. So we are going to move like hand in hand together. In our meditations or even in our practices, like think about Hong Sau, when we start basically watching our breaths and don't connect to any of the thoughts. That's what the only thing required of it is. Basically we're trying to create a little distance from that which seems very closely attached to us, isn't it? And then that distance, the moment we create, again, when we say, I am restless, as opposed to, my mind is restless. You see, there is always a distance. That's fine, I can live with a restless mind because I can still be calm while the mind just remains restless. But the moment we get attached to saying that, I am restless, that means there is nothing else there. I have accepted that reality that I am my mind and we are all together and we are doomed because we are restless. There's nothing can be done. And just the moment there is even the small separation, even just the thought that my mind is restless creates that distance between the two of you. And in that distance has the capacity all of a sudden that restlessness loses grip over us. And that's, even if when we say this Hong Sau technique of concentration, a fundamental technique, a very easy technique, anybody can learn it for 10 minutes, but that practice has such a profundity behind it, isn't it? There is a game that we played recently at a school that we go. We were having this teacher's training, and so what we do is, it's a continuous training for maybe 6-7 days. So every day we try to recollect what happened last day. And we do it a little bit energetically. So we try to do it in the reverse order. So it kind of just challenges yourself. What happened the last thing? And then the second last thing. And then the third last thing. So it's kind of demanding onto your mind also. And there's a lot of things, like 9 to 5 we used to do something or the other. So that happened. Then few days later, we tried to make it even more complicated. So we started playing some games. We will throw the ball. So I am still trying to think what is happening, but I'm also catching the ball and throwing it out. But I'm still trying to keep my mind and then trying to recollect what is happening. We made it even more complicated one time, where like the speaker has to be focused, but the rest of the gang can have whatever fun they want. So this was the time when we actually started throwing the balls at each other. We'll just hit each other, And then even the speaker was not left alone with that. So at times you are also allowed to hit the speaker. But the responsibility of speaker was, you don't mind. You just continue what your job is, which is refresh. Tell us what happened yesterday. So at times, I started talking and then boom, boom. But I know it. It was very interesting to observe. What was happening is, yes, the person who was in place where he was supposed to, or she was supposed to say what it is, they were handling the balls, handling the attacks, and they were falling down, but they were still there. But there could be, at times, the ball would come and then hit on the face. And now that is too much. You see, I can handle. And then she will sometimes pick up the phone and then take her revenge and then go back to, where was I? So there were times when she could handle that attack easily, but there were times when, no, this is just too much. And then all of a sudden the focus shifts and goes to, well, let me work on this anger, or let me work on this, I have to take a revenge. And then she takes the revenge and again shifts back. And in some ways, what we were talking about is very similar. You see, we are sitting and they say, oh, I am he. And then the mind comes, all right, yeah, I am he. And all of a sudden, mind comes, yeah, you're right, but it's okay. I think we are done for the moment. And there are these some thoughts which have like somehow the direct connection or direct access to us. We are trying to be that distant and then saying like, thoughts are not allowed at the moment. And I am here. No thoughts, I'm meditating. Yeah, you're doing meditation, or your meditation is really doing good today. Even that thought, the moment it comes, we don't know. And then we accept that thought, and all of a sudden, so that's like something which is coming and hitting here. We get engaged. And then before we realize, we're like, oh, okay, what happened? Where did that whole I am he went off? Because sense of presence is not very complex to feel, no? At the moment, we all know that I ask you, how are you? It is possible to answer this question very easily. And who is answering that question? Because you can also tell me, it is not the mind, because it can also tell you that, oh, my mind is restless, so there's someone else behind. So the only time when these kind of thoughts, which have like very close connection to us, come and then embrace us, and then we lose our grip. The whole practice of spirituality, as Master says, is not really about, there are many aspects to that, but just find out, again, introspection is one of the main things also, he says. And that's what we do, like yoga defined as a yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It's a neutralization of these vortices. And there are many of them, so we don't necessarily work one at a time. But all our practices are basically trying to just get us away from that. Because what these vrittis are doing is, it's just embracing us and then forcing us to assume this limited, confined identity. Identity with the mind, identity with our feelings, identity with our ego. But everything that we are trying to turn our attention to something else. And our practices are for that. We do Hongsa practice, Kriya Yoga. And again, they say it's like one of the highest technique to neutralize all these vrittis, burn them right in the spine where it is. There are many things. Shaman is going to help us later on to find out such vrittis inside us, find out our thought patterns, and then work with them, which we feel the most relevant at this moment of time. I will going to end with just one short story, and I have been saying these stories, you might have heard this before, but again just gives a glimpse about what it is that Master is talking about when he says you can be calmly active, actively calm. You can be calmly running, you can be calmly angry. Now what would that really mean? So this is a story from the life of Sukhdev. Sukhdev, I think, was the son of Durvasa, or one of the sages. So he Vedavyas, thank you, yeah. But Vedavyas himself was a self-realized guru, but his son said, I have to find my own. So Vyas sent him to King Janak, Raja Janak. And the two parts of the story, there is a first part where how he realizes that Raja Janak is his guru. And then once they accept, okay, I accept you as my disciple. Now Raja Janak was a king, no? He was a king. So he said, okay, I have this beautiful kingdom. Now that you are going to live in my kingdom, why don't you go and then see how this beautiful palace looks like? I said, okay, sure, whatever you say, sir. I said, but while you go, I'm going to give you a challenging activity. I'm going to give you this lamp which is full of oil. So light that lamp and then go from different rooms, see the entire palace and return to me. But make sure that not a single drop of oil is spilled and the light should never go off. I said, that's easy. Okay, I'll go. And he was there. He had his entire attention focused on that lamp. He made sure that he visited every room, everywhere he went in the palace. Not a single drop fell down. And the light was burning all the time. Yes. First job succeeded. He came back and then he talked. He said, so, how did you like the trip? He said, fantastic, sir. So did the lamp go off? He said, no. A single drop spilled? No. So tell me, what did you see in my palace? Then he said, well, I didn't quite really see anything really, sir. Because my entire attention was there. He says, no, okay, let's repeat this exercise. I really want you to go and visit my palace because it is too beautiful. I have spent a lot of energy doing that. But the rest of the conditions also have to be met. So this time, he took much longer than what he would have normally took. But he went and then he took time to pause in every room and look at the beautiful chandeliers that was built in that palace. He went to the queen's palace and then saw, oh, so pretty and all those kind of things. Went to the ponds, went to the bathing place, the big swimming pools, all the things he saw wonderfully. Took his time to enjoy that. But he was also very mindful of making sure that as he is walking, the oil is not getting spilled. As he is walking, the lamp is still there. And then he returned after quite some time. And now King Janaka asked him, and he has many things to say about this wonderful life, and many things that King Janaka is appreciated. And he had also made sure that the lamp was there, always burning. Not a single drop was spilled. That is what Master is telling us, is that sense of presence, don't let it go off. By practicing spirituality, it is not going to make us into like a small blob who never moves. It's always centered and serene. He wants us to express. There is an expression of joy that can come from centeredness. There is an expression of anger that can come from centeredness. There's an expression of everything that can come from that sense of presence. And that's what he invites us to do. It's like be anchored inside yourself. Yes, small things will come here and there. They will pull you out. But the only job is just make an effort to bring your attention back to that light, making sure that the light is glowing, that light is radiating all the time. And then from there, just take your moment to appreciate this creation, which is also part of all that is. Joy to you.